Happy Sunday, women's basketball fans. We have a new league in town, or I'm in the town where the new league is. We're going to talk about Unrivaled, but this is the Courtney Vandersloot episode. Courtney Vandersloot, she said she wants to be valued and she wants the ball in her hand. And as she is a free agent this upcoming season, is that something that the New York Liberty can deliver? Well, we'll talk about that and more on today's episode of Gotta Get Up. Gotta get up, gotta get up, gotta get up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. All right. Welcome from Miami-ish. I'm kind of in Miami, Brian, but we're here for another episode of Gotta Get Up. We're going to do a deep dive into Courtney Vandersloot, just like we've been going through the full 2024 roster. And of course, we'll talk about Unrivaled. But first, Brian, let's do a vibe check. How are things in your world? What's the weather like in New York?
Apparently, it rained a little bit yesterday. I keep getting notifications that it's supposed to snow today, but I looked out the window. I haven't seen anything yet. Apparently upstate in Buffalo is going to get it the worst, but I haven't seen anything yet. I kind of need to go out to get groceries a little bit later, but I'm like, if it's snowing, I don't want to because it's complications abound, I say.
I'm telling you, the struggle is real. We had some snow back in Tulsa about a week and a half ago, and Tulsa is not prepared for snow. So it was kind of funny as a New Yorker to see the snow in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But
do people drive like fools in the snow in Tulsa?
Oh, they absolutely do. They drive like fools anyway. But I think that because some people have there's a lot of pickup trucks in Oklahoma, that's pickup truck country. They think that it's all right, well, my pickup truck's gonna be fine. But baby, if you don't know how that snow reacts, you're gonna get got. So it was a little crazy.
Gliding down the highway.
Yeah, I went to the nail salon, was getting my little pedicure. My first pedicure since I messed up my foot. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So I'm going in there and she's like, yeah, I was driving home and I went into a ditch. I was like, girl, what? I was like, I'm glad you're okay. But it's crazy. It's crazy out on those mean streets. But I'm here in, like I said, Miami-ish area. There was a lot of rain the first few days. So I couldn't be cute with my sandals. I had to, but I had my Sabrinas on. Go ahead, Brian.
Look, I'm sure you've dealt with this. Your foot getting wet in the rain is the worst feeling on the planet.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Anything closed up, close them up.
That's it. Yep. Yeah. So the Sabrinas don't have great traction in the rain, though. So make sure you don't bust your behind like I almost did a few times. Don't walk on any steel grates. Anyway, what up, Ronnie? Good to see you. And hey to everybody else watching live. We got a jam-packed show. So let's just get into it. Now, this is the Courtney Vandersloot episode, Brian. We've been teasing this one for a while because I still believe that the way and how both the New York Liberty, but then of course Courtney Vandersloot and her team decide to handle free agency, aka is she going to return or not, is going to be huge for the New York Liberty. On the one hand, having Courtney Vandersloot, I still think is better than not all, but most alternatives at guard until the New York Liberty have a young guard that they want to bring up. And by guard, I mean point guard. On the other hand, can you find someone that can do what Courtney Vandersloot can do, or at least be serviceable kind of in that catchment area for less to then potentially open up for somebody else? So that's kind of a lot of the questions that we're going to try and talk about are going to be related to those two things. But the first thing we want to do is, just like we do on all of our deep dives, Brian, let's tell people a little bit about what Courtney Vandersloot's season looked like in 2024. So I'm going to go to you. What are the things that stood out regarding Courtney Vandersloot, and how would you kind of summarize her 2024?
I would say, I guess a word to summarize Courtney's 2024's perseverance. she went away for a while because her mom Jan passed away, and it really took a big toll on her. And the team did their best to sort of uplift her and keep her in mind while she was away. And when she came back, there was such a level of care and love given to her by her teammates, the organization, and the fans. So that part really sort of like helped carry her through what was really a really trying time for her. And she talked about it a little bit. Like, it's hard to like lose a family member like that, especially considering her mom had been dealing with that for a few years. It was partially during her free agency. It was why she was debating between Seattle and New York, because Seattle is in the Pacific Northwest, which is close to where Mrs. Chan was. So the human part really played a role in what she was going through this year. And when she came back, she did her best to sort of get back in the role that she was. And I think, in her role, was pretty solid as a lead guard. Like, something with the Liberty is that they tend to sort of get out of control sometimes, where it's like they look a little bit discombobulated. They have a few possessions where they're rushing into their sets. They're going for the first shot, not getting in the paint. Courtney helped sort of keep them organized in that regard. So if there's a moment where JJ's not getting the ball enough, Courtney would get it to her. If they're settling for too many threes, Courtney would find a way to drive to the lane and make things happen. So she was good in that regard. The complicating thing for Courtney is that the Liberty were good when she was on the court, but then when they made the lineup, so it's just like, oh, this is the Death Star. We're here. And that is a complicating thing for a player who still has a lot in the tank. Like, when we'll talk about it in a little bit, but she's like, in her availability, she's like, I can still contribute. And she's right when she says that. She's still a good player and still has plenty of value and things to contribute. The big question is, can she do it for 32 minutes a night? Because especially with certain lineups, and like we saw back in 2023, Vegas is like, okay, somebody's going to have to shoot. You could shoot. It's fine. It's fine with us. And when you get the deeper you get into the woods, and it's tougher and tighter, and you get the very best of the best waiting for you at the end, can you survive that for 32, 33, 34, hell, sometimes 40 minutes a night, like in 2023? Can you survive with that? That is a fascinating question that the Liberty have to answer. And I'm not sure if they have it on this date, if they have that answer quite ready yet.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on a lot of things. I just want to add to what you said with some of her stats. So when we look at her stats for 2024, 6.4 points per game, 4.8 assists. Her usage for 2024 was as high as 26%. So that's effectively like possessions for the New York Liberty that end with her either because she scored or she assisted. And her usage was as low as roughly seven, anywhere from 7 to 8%. She hit 7 in the 7% area 4 times if you include how many times she hit 8%, which was once. That's 5. She was at her highest usage also 4 times. She did win her second title. Of course, she won with the Chicago Sky. She won with the New York Liberty. So she has a hankering for helping teams win their first title. So we'll have to keep up with things on that accord. I think another interesting thing to see here is when you look at her career stats in her rookie season, 2011, she was averaging 22.9 minutes, and she has several seasons from 2017. Actually, from 2017 through 2021, she was averaging 30 or more minutes. That dipped a little in 22. Her last season in Chicago, she was 26.5. She put up 30 minutes, 30.4 technically minutes last season in 2023, 22.3 minutes this season for the New York Liberty. They have that she played 31 games and started all 31 games. I thought, Brian, there was at least one game, and maybe I'm misremembering, in the regular season where she also came off the bench, but it was just in the playoffs. Okay. So It was just in the playoffs. Okay. So I misremembered that. But to that point, she played 11 games, started no games in the playoffs in 2024. That is the only time in her career that she was in the playoffs and had no starts. And that goes back to what your last point was. And I think it also goes to what is realistic for the New York Liberty. I think that the protected list that we've gone through on the podcast is pretty close to what also will be the starter. I think, 6 protected players is what we've talked about. Of course, we don't know who the New York Liberty protected, but the only outlier from that 6 players is Niara Sabally, who we think will be the first player off of the bench, more than likely, for the New York Liberty. So let's talk about it. You have then Betnijah Hamilton, of course, Sabrina Ionescu, and Leo, who we talked about on the last episode, Leonie Fibish, who are then going to be responsible for handling the ball. And to your point, it was the death squad. Like, that worked. That lineup worked. Does that lineup have longevity, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I think I would say yes, with a caveat. I would say the caveat would be, can the Liberty nurse Betnijah through another season? Because since 2021, B has missed. She missed time in 22, 23. I think she's out for maybe a little bit, but not too much. And then 24, she had another operation. And then she told us that shot kicked in the finals. So she was able to tough it out and really make it through. So I think for the Liberty, I think the lineup can work. It's just going to be, with the season being longer as well, too, Sandy's got to be really more diligent about managing minutes, really making sure that you're not sort of burning the midnight oil super early. Right. So if there are games when, third, fourth game in the week, legs are a little bit tired, okay, do you let your second unit ride a little bit more and not so much punt the game, but be like, hey, I'm going to need you guys to carry it home because my big guns they aren't at full capacity tonight. That's such a fascinating dynamic for a coach, because every game you're like, okay, I'm in this right now. I can get it right now. So it's going to be a situation. Can you sort of like look a little bit ahead while still making sure you're doing enough to win and maintain that 1 seed? So I think for the Liberty lineup, I think they'll be fine. And then with the acquisitions coming in, presumably a Bet Gardner, if she makes the squad coming out of camp, assuming Kennedy Burke is back, that's another player who can soak up those minutes. Niara is going to get a lot of big run this year. Although I did see in an article last night, maybe she's going to be coming in late because Germany has Eurobasket, but I have to look more into that so to get more clarity about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's something I might see if I can put a bug in Satou's ear. It was funny. She comes for Satou, that is, for media availability at Unrivaled, and we're walking over and she like puts her hand on my shoulder and she's like, girl, the last time I saw you, I was crying, which is funny because we played that some of that audio from Satou on our last Leo episode. But it's always interesting, Brian, outside of New York Liberty players who see us more regularly. I never get a sense or a handle if players actually remember who we are, or we just like these blob faces that show up and put a microphone in their face. But at least for Satou,
I will say the only time they remember you is if you ask a question that pisses them off, because some players may not recognize us, but like the folks who get players mad, like they see them and they're like, I remember you.
Like, oh, I remember you. I know your words. I remember your words. Yeah, you want to be remembered for a good reason. I don't know if her remembering that she cried was the best, but I was like, I didn't. Anyway, that's my little Satou anecdote. But I think the question, and I'm starting to see some things in the chat, will bring up some of the comments shortly. But this is it's not really $1 million question, but it is an interesting question. Courtney Vandersloot, just if we look over at her hoop stats, in 2024, she was a protected veteran. So that came with a price tag of $194,670. So, she was making more than Jonquel Jones, making more than Betnijah Hamilton. As a matter of fact, the only 2 players that made more than Courtney Vandersloot, I'm sure we can all guess, Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu.
If you have a shoe line, you top of the pay chart.
top of that. So Stewie came in at 205, 205,000. And it's 202 for Sab. So again, is this a veteran guard who you see value in bringing at a price tag, and she's a UFA, so that's as you know, as we hear, yesterday's price ain't today's price, you feel me? So is there even money, is there room on the table to bring in Courtney Vandersloot, and does she want to play the role that she did last season? I think these are all questions. Just FYI, Hamilton is set to make a veteran protected 185 for next season, JJ at 195. I mean, you've got your finals MVP making less than a player that came off the bench. And I say that because it's true. I don't think they're necessarily like for likes. You bring in Courtney Vandersloot and you pay Courtney Vandersloot because of a lot of the things that you already mentioned, Brian. Yeah. But again, our big conversation is all predicated on kind of just opening up the dialogue. Can you get what Courtney Vandersloot brought at a lower price and maybe for a longer period of time?
Yeah, I wonder within that, the Sabally piece is so interesting because when Court came in, it's okay, you all WNBA player, you champion, you workhorse. Now the role is WNBA champion, but second player off the bench. You spelling Sabrina every so often, maybe spelling Leonie Fibich a little bit, not the you're going to keep everything completely organized and operating the way you had in 2023. And with that comes a reduction in minutes. So if she does come back, I would be highly surprised if it's at that same number, because it's going to be lower because the role is going to be a little bit lower. So I wonder for Vandersloot, it's okay, I'm not starting here. I'm playing fewer minutes. I'm getting paid less. I can still compete for a championship here, but is that what I want to do? And if I do decide, okay, I want to make a little bit more to reflect the value that I believe I can still bring to a team, where do I look? Do I go to like what I guess the part two of that for Sloot is, if she decides New York isn't the fit for her, where can she land? Like what team out there? Because if it's a situation where I want to be in a championship team, but I want to start, what championship team is out there where you can start? Because you ain't trying to like start on some bad team just because you're making X amount of money. Like it's not really worth it, because once you've been in championship row, you don't want to leave championship row. Like no one wants to do that.
That part. And then as we're going to hear from Courtney Vandersloot, and as I've continued to hear throughout Unrivaled, a lot of what players are experiencing at Unrivaled is setting once again a new bar for what is expected when it comes to professional women's basketball. We're going to get into that, but first let's hear this clip from Courtney Vandersloot, and then we have a little internal housekeeping that we want to keep y'all updated with. But this is Courtney Vandersloot. This was the first day of media availability for Unrivaled. This is prior to any of the games tipping off. We'll talk about some of the games, including how Vandersloot and the rest of the New York Liberty players, or maybe New York Liberty prospects, I don't know, how they played and how they fared in opening weekend. We still have games tomorrow on Monday, but here's Courtney Vandersloot.
Get better, but obviously free agency is around the corner, and I've been thinking about that for a few weeks now, and so it's just about balancing. It's what a great opportunity for everyone to be right here. I'm sure there will be a lot of people in town. We can meet with teams, and I see free agents in the hallways. I think it's a great place to be if you're a free agent.
For sure. And just the second one here, do you expect to return to New York in 2025?
I'm going to go through free agency and see the best situation for me and my family. Obviously New York is where I'm currently feel like I'm part of the New York Liberty, and coming off a championship, but I'm going to go through free agency and just see what's best for me.
That sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Remy? This is also for Sloot. I'm wondering, since you, as one of the more experienced players on the team, I mean, you've played in some really big arenas, obviously, most notably New York. How are you thinking about that, like not having the energy of New York or other, big arenas like that when you're going into such a smaller, more made for TV kind of atmosphere?
Yeah, I think we're out there to compete. So once you get in between the lines, that's the main focus. You bring your own energy. The team is there. We're just there to, obviously we have the best of the best. So if you don't bring your best every night, like you're not going to be able to rely on the crowd for that energy. You're going to use your teammates, and knowing that there's going to be a lot of people watching on TV. But that's what we're here for. Is we're here to compete and get better. So that's the main focus going into the games, I think.
Well, thanks.
We'll go to Annie.
What's up, guys? This one's for Sloot. How you doing? Good to see you. The CBA negotiations, I'm curious how you feel like this experience in Miami with Unrivaled could potentially impact the CBA negotiations, just in terms of what you all are experiencing there, kind of like the top-notch environment, etc. Do you see that impacting the CBA negotiations at all?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect timing. The timing worked out great. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but the Unrivaled's ability to put everything we need here, really treat us like first class athletes. It's a great time for women's sports, and with the CBA being up, we're going to push the envelope and make sure that we're taken care of, as elite athletes. And I think this is a good stepping stone. Unrivaled has really done a great job of making sure that we have everything we need. And now we kind of know what to expect and what to ask for and what we need in the next CBA.
I want to pause there just for a minute, Brian. Again, Courtney Vandersloot saying she is going to explore free agency. And coming up, we'll hear, she was asked once again to clarify what she's looking for. So let's hear what she's looking for in free agency. Again, does the New York Liberty fit the brief? All of that coming up. But again, we want to give you some housekeeping things. As you may know, Black Rose Media has not one, but two newsletters. That's right. The Women's Basketball Roundup, written by Brian Florentin, is our weekly digest for all things women's basketball from NCAA, the WNBA offseason, and of course, Unrivaled. And soon we'll also have Athletes Unlimited. So we also have the Gold Medal Dispatch, which we post roughly bi-weekly, that covers top Olympic stories. We've got the curling qualifiers that just happened. There's a lot of conversations on how the California fires are going to impact LA 2028. So those are the kinds of things that you'll see there. Both of those are housed by Beehive, which is a platform created by the Morning Brew team. And I really love using Beehive. One of my favorite things is also, especially given the TikTok ban is here, y'all. Like I tried to get onto TikTok and they were like, heck nah. Heck nah. But the good thing about using Beehive is that we actually have our own app for both newsletters. So not only can you find us on some of the other social media apps, Slack is where we're going to be controlling a lot of our conversation that we might see at Black Rosie Media on social media. We're bringing that to Slack. But another thing is you can actually use, we have apps for our Beehive newsletters. So once you subscribe, it's free. You can download the app directly to your mobile device. And then anytime we have a new article up, you don't even have to open your email because that's where our newsletter lives. You can actually just go directly to your app on your phone. So definitely check that out. And if you are a creator and you want to control your narrative, again, the landscape in social media changing, they're about to get rid of CapCut too, Brian. I'm like, no, don't take my CapCut. But this is a way for us to foolproof future-proof, I should say, moving forward. So please join us in our Slack community. I see some of our Slack friends here. What up, Amir? But also make sure you subscribe to our newsletters. Absolutely free to you right now. And of course, that gives you access to our mobile app. All right, Brian. Courtney Vandersloot. She said a lot, and then she said a little bit more. So let's hear what she's looking for in free agency.
Thank you.
Going to Maddie Kenny.
Hey, Courtney, just a follow-up on your free agency. Like, what are some top priorities that you have as you kind of go through this process? What's the best situation for you, would you say?
Yeah, I want to be valued. I want to be competitive. Obviously, that's why you come into this league. You want to be competing for championships, and a place that takes care of me, wants me to be there, and sees that what I can bring to the team. That's most important. I want to have the ball in my hands and be able to create the way that I think that I can. And just be in a place that is comfortable for me and my family. Yeah.
So that's what we're hearing from Sloot. She wants to be valued. She wants the ball in her hands. She wants to be at a place that understands what she can still bring to the table. Now, I think where we're at with Courtney Vandersloot, and as much as I don't like the feeling necessarily right now, especially not knowing what the alternative is, I do think we're probably going to see Courtney Vandersloot move on from the New York Liberty. And I don't think it's because the New York Liberty don't value her. I don't think it's because the New York Liberty don't want the ball in her hands. I think it's about volume, or as I talked about earlier, usage. Does she want her stats to be 7% usage? And again, some of that is just also how many shots are being knocked down after you make a pass or something like that. But the point being that when you have the ball in your hands and you have more minutes, your usage can go up and you can connect. And we know that Courtney Vandersloot, I mean, she's still on target if she continues to play, right, to be the all-time assist leader in this league. I personally would love to see her get that. I, as a New Yorker, would love to see her get that with New York. It just seems like the way things are moving that it might be time to move on from Courtney Vandersloot.
Yeah, I think, the point about having the ball in her hands is really interesting because the Liberty have, in the past few years, made it a point to have Sabrina have the ball in her hands more and sort of put the decision-making onus on her so she can sort of like get those shots, get downhill, do those things really well. And it's a natural evolution of what we've been talking about for the past few years of entrusting more responsibility with Sabrina. And within doing that means Sloot is going to have to dial back. And I think for Courtney, she's shown that when she plays that she's still really good and she's still really solid. It's just a matter of that volume that you said and making sure that you're still able to play the big minutes you think you can in order to contribute. And I think also at the same time, for Courtney, it's been a really good 2 years on the court with her in New York. Like the fans love her teammates love her, the organization really cares for her. But I think, whenever you take pride in your work in the way that she does, if you have to take a step back, it's like, I love being here, but I don't want to take a step back. And if she leaves, it's not like beef. It's not like, it's not a situation where it's like, oh, y'all didn't want this. It's like, nah, like it was great here. We were on not like different timelines per se, but how we see my role differs a bit. And I want to see if I can still contribute in the all WNBA level that I know that I can. And I think within that, it's a pride thing, especially for a player. I can still do this. Like, I'm happy to root on my teammates, but I can still be out there and still be the person coach trusts to bring the game home. And I think for Courtney, that could be a motivating factor too. Like, it sort of gives you that extra juice to get through where it's like, okay, I know I still got it. I can still do it. Let me see if I'm just gonna throw a team out there. I'm not sourcing anything on this, just like, if it's, can I go to the Storm, for example? And if I can play next to a Skylar Diggins, can I do what I do? Is something like that. Like Seattle, next Tempestaji talk is going to be it's probably going to be more chaos with the Storm.
Oh, we have so much to talk about on Tempestaji Talk. It's not even funny. We might have to really break that up into 2 episodes because there is a lot of spiciness. Yeah. So, but I feel you. And actually, again, we're not sourcing anything, but let's just go through the WNBA teams. You mentioned the Seattle Storm. Tempestaji Talk is our Seattle Storm podcast. And again, we will get into this because we at Unrivaled on day 1, Unrivaled is so messy. Not only did they give us Brianna Stewart versus Nafisa Collier, they also gave us Jewel Lloyd versus Skylar Diggins Smith. And let me tell tell y'all, Kayla McBride was not feeling having to play Phantom and Sabrina Ionescu. So again, we have a lot to talk about, and we'll get to some of it later on.
But before you go, a comparison just popped in my head. Do you know, like, do you remember back in the old days when kids would just sort of, like, disappear for the summer? Like, they'd be gone, and then
right with their auntie in South Carolina or something like that.
They all gone, but then the person you had beef with, like, you've been thinking about it for 3 months, and then the first day of school, you see them, it's like, oh yeah, I remember what happened back in June.
That's right.
It's go time.
Right.
I feel like the schedule people in Unrivaled were like, oh, there were so many antics last WNBA season.
Oof.
Let's get right back into it on our first day of school.
They put it all on display on TNT. So we're going to talk about that because the players definitely had things to say. But okay, you mentioned the Seattle Storm. Now, they are likely not going to have Jewel Lloyd next year, but again, you can go to Tempestagi Talk for more detail there. They still do have Skylar Diggins-Smith on contract. So then it becomes, can Courtney Vandersloot go to Seattle, and then is she playing off of the ball more? Does that mean Sky plays off of the ball more? I think that could potentially work, but it still needs some finagling. And Seattle, in theory, could be a contender. So I think Seattle checks, maybe not completely, but they could be a potential landing place, right? Then you have Phoenix. Does Phoenix have a point guard? I don't really think so. I'm not really sure. I mean, Tosh Cloud is there and has been put into that role. But again, if you bring Sloot there, does that help? But also, let's be real, is Phoenix realistically a contender? I think there are questions there. I think there's more questions there than Seattle. Yeah. LA. Okay. Yeah, okay. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, like, I'm trying not to be messy, but also, like, I literally don't know I don't know what's going on with LA.
You know, I will say with the Sparks, the point, you know, with Unrivaled, and the players have been to a player, they're like, man, the atmosphere and environment of it is so great. Like, this is so good. And the LA Sparks, like, the city, hey, Los Angeles is a beautiful place, but hey, I mean,
I don't, yeah.
Like, I'll say this, like, Candace Parker didn't get a locker of her own until she got to Las Vegas. And where was she the longest in her career?
LA. Yeah, LA's got some work to do. And again, LA is one of them teams that should be very afraid that Unrivaled is proving what you can do in season 1. Okay, so LA, I'm thinking no. Also, again, I don't think they're a contender. Dallas probably needs a solid point guard. And then you're cooking with Arike. Like, if I'm a true number 1, I'm dishing and diming to that number 2 all day. Because you know Arike gonna shoot that thing. She gonna shoot it.
Yeah, I guess I do.
Plus shots.
And I guess I wonder at the same time, they've got the number 1 pick for now. We'll see what develops with that. And then it's okay. Can I make it shake with Arike, insert number 1 pick here, and whatever comes back in the Satou Sabally Corn trade?
Right.
Could that be something?
Could it be ? But then does she fall into, if Dallas does what everyone thinks they're going to do and grabs Paige, then does that create another situation where Vandersloot is potentially coming off the bench? But then also, Brian, there's the fact that Dallas, they try really hard, but I don't know if I can consider them a legit contender right now. Yeah. I just don't. And that makes me sad for some folks. Washington, obviously not looking great in the last handful of seasons. They probably could use a point guard, but again, not a contender. So is that somewhere where Sloot's going to want to go? The New York Liberty, well, that's us. We've talked about that. Now the Aces could be interesting, especially because another free agent who has been court, Kelsey Plum. But do you go to Vegas after being with New York?
just to
after the Vegas, listen, I'm gonna put this out here. After the Vegas fan base flat out clowned Sloot for missing that corner three, is that where you're gonna go, Sloot? Is that where you want to be?
Yeah. Do I want to deal with the shenanigans that come with everything off the court with the Las Vegas Aces, in addition to having the team that broke my heart in my first year in New York? Would I want to deal with that? I don't know. And I guess at the same time, we'll get into this more in February, but all the reporting indicates that they're going to be looking for a new guard next year, which, I mean, hey, maybe it's that time for insert left-handed guard here, but who knows? We will see. We'll see what it looks like in February.
She's still doing those no-look, straight up, heaves behind the back. She did one of those in Unrivaled. So interesting. Is there room now versus will there be room in the future versus, again, I mean, the way my feelings work, I might feel some kind of way, but maybe if they paid me enough, I would feel a different way. All right, let's run through these. Connecticut, I mean, in theory, right, is always a contender, but you're definitely going in as a bridesmaid over there.
Yeah.
And as far as some of the things that she mentioned regarding accommodations, I mean, you might get booted from your own practice facility for somebody's birthday party. So I don't know. They got some work to do.
Yep.
Who else? We talked about Seattle, Minnesota. Okay, this is interesting. Now, this is interesting because Minnesota has Courtney Williams as their lead guard. And I think Courtney Williams did just about as good a job as she could possibly do, having not played that position very much in her career and taking a team to the WNBA finals. But that well ran pretty dry. They were, it ran dry after a while. So what happens? Is there space? How is Minnesota going to retool? I think that's just fascinating. We don't have a Minnesota Lynx podcast, and that's probably not something I'm doing coming right off of this WNBA final. I'm going to let that simmer for a bit. We're going to keep that on the back burner. But if you look at Maisha Hines-Allen is a UFA, Natisha Heidemann, a UFA. But again, Natisha Heidemann playing a reserve role. Is there room when you still have Williams and McBride?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Minnesota, such a fascinating team. I will say, if we ever do a Lynx podcast, I might I'll just play Cheryl's post-game press conference to talk to be like, hey, Cheryl, when you said this, can you tell me what was in your mind? I was in the room with you, but how furious were you as soon as you got your first one?
I just want the Sparks to be better. That's all. Manuel, hola mi gente. Also, Damien, I saw your comment from earlier when you popped in. ¿Cómo estás? Mi bien. The sun is out. I'm doing well. Hope all is well with you. Again, we got Ronnie. I saw this earlier, but jingle jangle, give them keys to Sab. If we're moving on from Sloot, that's how it's probably going to be. And again, I think Sabrina surprised me in how well she handled the one duties while Courtney Vandersloot was away, specifically, as you mentioned, as her mother was dealing with and battling cancer that she ultimately, passed away from. So, we still have Sab, who will be in California during NBA All-Star. She did not confirm nor deny that she will be involved in some activities, but she's like, yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. I will be there. So we have to see about that. Okay, the other few teams real quick. Indiana Fever. I'm pretty sure they're locked up on the one spot.
Yep.
So I'm thinking that's a no-go.
And also someone wearing number 22 there as well, too. So we can scratch that off.
Oh, yeah. Although she's wearing 25 for Unrivaled. Did you notice that? I meant to ask her about that. Yeah, I can't. And I was like, well, who else is wearing 22? And then I keep forgetting to actually look at the roster because Cam's not on her team. What team is Cam? Anyway, we'll go over it. Okay. And then so the final team. Oh, I guess there's two more. The Atlanta Dream. Okay, let's just. They're not a contender. they're not a contender. So there's that. Then you have the Valkyries.
First year, they've got all the essentials and all the plus ones that everyone likes. But are they near contention? I would say no at this point.
No, it does get her closer to home. Should be on the West Coast. So, and NorCal, so that closer to Washington in theory, not as close to Seattle, but all right. So that's kind of breaking it down. We are going to talk about Unrivaled coming up. And we're also going to, but before we do that, I should say, we talked about where Vandersloot might land, but and we alluded to a few of them, Brian, but let's also talk about if we are moving on from Courtney Vandersloot, which I think is the most likely scenario at this point, then do we have enough in the backcourt to just get a guard in the draft? Do we need to get somebody else? I feel like people know my opinion on this, but we'll talk about that. But first, I want to let you know that Gotta Get Up and Tempestagi Talk moving forward, starting with this episode of Gotta Get Up. We already did our last Ezimag Bagora episode. Will be available in audio form. So we did this early on and then we stopped just because the community was pretty hot on YouTube and we wanted to cultivate that. But we're going to move back to posting also on everything from Apple, Spotify, all of the places. We're not going to stop providing things on YouTube. The only difference between the audio podcast or audio only podcast and what you see on YouTube and in video is that the fourth quarter, which is where we do our listener questions and comments and just kind of have an impromptu discussion, that will not be available in audio form, but you can listen to it, of course, and watch it when you are with us live, like all of you are with us live right now, or on replay. We usually truncate the live show and just clean it up a little bit and have it on YouTube. So just want to give you some more housekeeping. So if you are more of an audio listener, or maybe you're driving somewhere or traveling and you can't watch the video, no worries, we got you covered. We will have audio. Transistor is where we house that, and they're going to take care of all the distribution for us and everything like that. So again, just another housekeeping thing. All right, Brian, are there guards, whether free agents? I mentioned Kelsey Plum, she's a free agent, or potential guards in the league right now that you think could be a good fit for the New York Liberty? Or is this more give Sab the role and get a guard in the draft?
I would say that's such a great question. I think if we sort of like start in-house and then work our way out, like right now, the backup guards, in addition to Sloot, are Ivana Dojkic and Jalen Sherrod. Evie had some good minutes when she got in the court, but there were some things that she can get better on. I know she's doing overseas play, so she can definitely work on that. Jalen didn't get many minutes, but she was a spark plug when she came in, and I think for her upcoming run in Athletes Unlimited is gonna be so great because it gives her a chance to really be on the court and really be in charge of an offense like that in the way, and I guess in a pro offense, I should say, because she did that at Colorado. But being in charge of a pro offense, I think is going to be really valuable experience for her. And I guess also with another guard, Marquisha Davis currently is in China, and then she didn't get much minutes throughout the regular season as well, too. So now that she's getting real, like, physical pro level competition, when she comes back to the States, can she incorporate that into what she's doing? And if she's on the court, can she be that great slasher and cutter? And can she even run the offense a little bit? Well, because, one thing with Sandy, like the first year, like with her rookies, like she'll let them sort of like marinate and stew on the bench a little bit just so they get that seasoning. And then year two, you ready to rock and roll. So I feel like if she comes back, we'll see what Marquisha can do, and if she's able to take on a bigger role. Because if that's the case, then you can sort of like finagle and figure out some other parts of the roster without having to without having to use a lot of resources for a backup guard position for the team. So that could be very interesting. So I wonder about that. And then outside of that, if you wanted to go external, the 7th pick in the draft, I have to start reading more draft mocks and see.
Pow Pow. A lot of people saying Pow Pow might come over. I kind of like that. I think basically what you're talking about with Q and with Sherrod is that sandpaper that I always want. I do want a little more sandpaper. And, that could potentially come in a lead guard role. But I agree with you. I don't think the New York Liberty need to go make a splashy free agent or a trade, because then what are you giving up, right? For that guard, especially knowing that eventually we're going to have a few more expansion drafts. So, maybe the field will look a little bit better, but you try to develop what you have. Also, Ronnie reminding us, the Wizard.
Yeah.
That, of course, is Marine Johannes, and is has been retained through the transaction wire.
Yeah, and MJ, like in the not the most recent, the second most recent newsletter, we shared a clip of her talking to a reporter, Christos Talasas, in October, when she said, "Hey, I want to come back to WNBA in 2025. I love the Liberty. My preference is to come back here, but I want to be back in the WNBA in 2025." And MJ is currently recovering from ankle surgery, so she's not playing right now overseas, but she should be good to go by springtime. And she's not in the French league that sort of like keeps you until like whenever. So
Right.
she'll have that time to come back. And, I was thinking about it before we came in. MJ really is the last connection to the darkest days in Westchester. So there's a sentimental connection with MJ in addition to all the great play on the court.
Yeah.
And I wound up also looking back at her exit interview in 2023. And one of the things that she said that Sandy and the coaching staff wanted for her was to sort of like do more work off the ball. Because, in France, she has the ball in her hands a lot. Whereas here, she wants to sort of work on being a little bit better off the ball, really being able to expand her game in that way. I remember I spoke to her in 2022, and she said that Sandy would challenge her to take on those defensive wings for like on assignment. So I think for MJ, the coaching staff really sort of like challenges her to be better in a lot of unique ways, which I think is great for players' development. And I think it shows her that the coaching staff has your best interest in mind because they want to push you to be the absolute best version of yourself. So if she does come back in 2025, it'll be really interesting to sort of see how she manages her role. She won't start on this team because Leia was a better option and does more things well, I would say. But as that guard coming off the bench, someone who has outstanding court vision, like she can really make things shake. And I think it'll also be a situation where she'll have more room to sort of like explore different aspects of her game and really sort of like push herself to be an even better player.
Yeah, I like this. And again, we kind of we put it all out there and we said if we had to choose between Leo and MJ, we both said Leo. I didn't like that I said it, but it was true. It is true. Now, okay, all right. I'm still percolating this idea, but it seems like we could be in a position where not really, but I don't know. We'll just say if you had a choice right now going into 2025, Brian, between MJ and Sloot, those are your two options. Who are you taking?
I think I go MJ.
I think I do too.
Yeah, because I think, especially MJ's only 29 years old, 29, 30, somewhere around there. And the financial cost won't be as much as Sloot because Sloot is like near max level player and near max level salary request, whereas MJ just sort of like slot in a little bit more, and then you can use the remaining bit from what happens with the flexibility available with not having Sloot at that number. Can you tweak one other thing? Can you, especially with the salary cap expected to go up, and so who knows what, can you divvy that resource somewhere else? And when you're losing another player in the expansion draft, because they will lose more players in the expansion draft. Like it's the cost of being a great team. Can you use whatever's left from that into investing more in the roster and putting it more in keeping other players who are here? keeping them satisfied and making sure they feel like they're being paid their worth and rewarding them for their hard work into the future.
Yeah, I think the Liberty definitely have a lot to consider. I do still think that Courtney Vandersloot and just getting to a place where both parties or all parties understand what's happening there is going to unlock what the Liberty look like. You know, we'll just say kind of this 2.0 or the 2025 version of the New York Liberty. So I do think it will. I feel a little bit better. I'm glad we talked it out. Thank you for this therapy session, everyone, because I was feeling a little uncomfortable. I'm very bullish. I think you need a true point guard. Courtney Vandersloot is a true point guard in the most pure sense. And we really don't have a lot of those. I mean, we ran through all the teams, Brian, and there was only a handful of them that had a true point guard. And the New York Liberty is one of them because of Courtney Vandersloot. That being said, if you take that element out and just how positionless and how, you know, how this team plays position, because people can say they're positionless and it doesn't really work out. This New York Liberty team is very fluid. They can attack and multiple players can attack, and not necessarily because they're playing out of position. That's just their game. So I feel a little bit better about it. Ronnie, thank you for reminding us about the Wizard. Because I was also I would have had a heart space, as Courtney Vandersloot says, if we let MJ go out the door. I think there's too much value there. There's too much excitement there. And I want to see MJ in an environment. I got to see her play with alongside Gabby Williams in the Olympics. I do think that she needs to continue to work on her confidence. She can kind of fall back at times. And she's going to be around so many great players if she returns to the New York Liberty that I imagine that what you said about Sandy will continue to happen, that they'll really challenge her. They've told her at times, shoot the ball. We want you to, this week or however long, we want you to focus on getting your shot. There have been times where the first priority was her defense. And so I think that I'm curious to see if MJ can shake off some of the, that headspace where maybe she's overthinking a little bit and be able to settle down, control the ball. I think you'd have her, if she is running the ball, you're going to have a Stewie even JJ, just like that outlet, someone who can actually come get the ball if she needs a reset. I think you still need a little bit of that, but it'll be interesting to see if she can evolve beyond that. All right, let's talk Unrivaled. And now is the time. If you have specific questions, I know we have some in here already, but if you have specific questions, whether it's about Unrivaled, whether it's about the New York Liberty, now's your time to put them in the chat. Also, Manuel, I see your comment here. We've been in the newsletter, especially talking a lot about the California fires and how it's impacting people. So we're glad that it seems like things are getting better for you. Gutted for you and everyone else that's still dealing with that. And if there are ways that you know of places that are needing support, assistance, send that to us at Black Rosie Media so we can amplify it. So just want to put that out there. Okay. Unrivaled. Brian, you and I have had different Unrivaled experiences. I'm here in Florida. You've been able to catch up on the broadcast. So I'll have you start just your first takeaways from what you've been able to see, everything from production to the gameplay to, just the league getting out the gate.
Yeah. So I was on the road Friday night and Saturday, so I didn't get to sort of watch it live. So I've been watching the playback on the HBO Max app. So one thing I like about it is that in each game, you have the full pregame discussion leading up to it. So you get the host with Renee Montgomery and Candace Parker breaking the game down. And I really like that. Like, you really want to have the full viewing. You want to have the full experience as a viewer of pregame, the analysis, the sort of breakdown and things like that coming in. And then when it comes to the games itself, TNT usually does a really good job with their basketball coverage. Like, they tend to really sort of put a lot of investment and care into it. And I think it really sort of shined today. Brendan Glassfield, the Heat, my apologies, got his name wrong.
Glasheen, from the Sun.
Yeah, and then he's excellent. I love hearing him call games. Like whenever I hear the Sun games, I'm like, he's really good. It's always great to see Lisa Leslie, and also Lisa has a great Turner connection because back in the day, in between W seasons, she would do some TNT analysis as well too. So it's like a homecoming for her, which is really fun. And the Unrivaled announcing team is really solid. Like for folks who live in New York, Ross Goldenwood is going to be there. Sarah Krusak is going to be there. So it's a lot of friendly faces for us in this community. So that's really cool. I really like the I tend to go back and forth on the value of like bench interviews, because like usually in a W we get the coaches talking into a headset trying to figure out technology on the fly, which doesn't always work. But this time they have Allie LaForce with the microphone, so we're gonna hear somebody talking, thankfully. And then it's been pretty fun. I didn't see it live, but there was like one clip I saw floating on social media of Allie LaForce interviewing BG, and then as it's happening, BG's barking at a referee who made a bad call, which if you watch the Phoenix Mercury, that checks out, because if you're looking for someone to get at the referees, it's either Skylar or insert Mercury here. So I love that carried over from the WNBA season. And also I love the court is so unique because the dimensions are a little bit different, but they're still able to capture all of the action. We're really able to sort of see the full scope of the court. I love also hearing in huddles, we hear the players talking, and I was watching the a game just now. I could hear Courtney Williams sort of like talking and coaching players up in the sidelines and in the huddle. So I like that aspect of it, and it feels like, I think ultimately the biggest thing that sort of stands out is that the level of care is really present. Like, it's, as a viewer, I wanna feel that what I'm watching is fun and cool and everyone's deeply invested. And I think to a person, everyone down there in Florida, from players, TV staff, production staff, media who's there, like everyone is like invested in seeing great basketball. And I feel like this weekend has been a grand slam in that regard. Like everyone is like dialed in, everyone's going to do the best they can, and everyone wants to put forth a great entertainment product, because there's so many things out there to watch. There's so many things to do, and having an hour and change of someone's time is so valuable, and you want to make it, you want to make the most out of it for the people who are there at home. And I guess, Erica, I'm going to flip it to you a little bit. What was it like being there in person? Because on TV, it looked really fun.
I mean, I will say this, like the court is gorgeous. It's like, or the set, if you want, because it's basically a sound studio that they transformed. They've been playing this video. There was a launch party, and then they play it before every game, and including in between the doubleheader, where they show, and you hear Fee and Chloe talking about, she heads up social media. You hear them talking about how it went from an empty soundstage, and they show you, to 37 days later to 3x3 courts, not 3x3 regulation, not, WNBA regulation, to your point, Brian. So it's an undertaking. And for anyone in our Slack community, you saw me posting videos and images, especially like I showed the first day I walked in, and they're still trying to decide like how to line up the letters and the logo for the merch counter. There was a bunch of stuff everywhere. They were definitely still putting things together. There was like the bar area and all of the food was not set up yet. So definitely startup vibes, but the energy, the first day was a little interesting because a lot of the energy was, I mean, the DJ they have in that little Sephora corner, the DJ has been phenomenal. I'm in there like jamming. So I love that. The energy, especially for the first game early on, was a little interesting. I know Moni, who we just saw pop in. Hey, Moni. We were talking in Slack about what the vibes were. And I think the vibes were kind of like, hey, I'm excited to be here, but also like, what is this? From like the true fans. And then there were a lot of, as we would expect, a lot of the investors. So Steve Nash has been there. Alex Morgan has been there. Formerly Kelly O'Hara, who is a retired NWSL and US soccer player who turned, journalist or podcaster for Just Women's Sports, was there. So, I was reporting on Nneka was there. Nneka Ogumike was there. Pokey Chapman. We saw, again, we'll talk about this on, hey, we're going to talk about that on Tempestagi Talk. But again, join the Slack community, because I already gave away some details about that. You had representation from Vegas, Dallas, I think Chicago. Oh, speaking of, on the Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, the New York Liberty have representation. Well, first of all, T. Teresa, like the trainer, is a part of Unrivaled, so is working with Unrivaled. But also, they brought out the big guns. Okay, I don't know if there are other people there, but I can confirm 100% Joe Tsai in the building, and he was talking. So Stewie, she played the first game on opening day, and after her game, she sat parked it right next to Joe Tsai and was chatting him up, which again goes back to something Courtney Vandersloot said in that clip, and what we've been hearing a lot. This is a great place if you're a free agent. And if you are a WNBA team that's serious about your life, you need to be here. So it is the best of the best. I saw Sylvia Fowles is here. Tisha Penichero is here. Ruth Riley, who now works with the Miami Heat, is here. So lots going on. Lots of agents in the building. I love it. I will say a little hiccups. There are some hiccups. First thing for me was the format for post game. So after the first game, Jewel Lloyd was brought out with Nafisa Collier. But if you look at the rosters, Jewel Lloyd and Fee are on two different teams. So Jewel plays for the Mist and Fee plays for the Lunar Owls. And so you had two players who just competed against each other at the same podium. Now, for the first time, wasn't that big of a deal, because a lot of people were like, well, where's the vibes? How proud are you? What is this? What is that? And like, no one was asking, well, why did you F that up? Why didn't you call the timeout? And like, those weren't the questions. Yeah. But as we move forward, those are going to be more of the questions. Also, the second night, Rose played, who did they play? I'm getting all the teams. It was
Lunar Owls, because I think
it wasn't the Lunar Owls. It was the second game. So Lunar Owls played Mist, and Rose played Vinyl, right? I think it's Vinyl. Is that Teaspoon's team?
Yeah, Rose and Vinyl was Friday night, and then Rose and Owl.
Rose and Owls was yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, it was Rose versus. Okay, first of all, Teaspoon. She just walked into the building, immediate applause. Everybody loves Spoon. I love Spoon. I caught up with Teaspoon. I said this in Slack, but we just caught up casually and talked a little bit about how she's just feeling the love. She loves being at Unrivaled. She's feeling great. She's also feeling taken care of. So I love to hear that. We were just casually talking off the record. I told her we're going to have to get you on the pod sometime. She said, okay, whatever you need. So we're going to have to, I'm going to work on it because she said it. So now I'm going to make it happen. So we're going to have to chop it up with Teaspoon, get her thoughts on Unrivaled, get her thoughts on the parade. We talked a little bit about that. And yes, I want to get her thoughts on, should she get a ring? Because y'all know how I feel about it. I say no. She wasn't on the 2024 team. Should she get a commemoration of the championship? Absolutely. Should she get a ring? My opinion is no. But I want to hear what Teaspoon thinks about it, but also, has she heard anything about it? You feel me? So I'm gonna see if we can get the deets there. So that was weird. The way they set up media for the first game was weird. Also, super weird that Skylar Diggins-Smith, who hit a game winner. I mean, well, there's going to be a game winner in every game. Like literally every game will have a game winner because of the winning score and how that works. But she hit like a dramatic fashion. She was acting a fool. She was hyped up. I put this again in Slack. She did not come to speak to media. She was not made available, even though we asked for her. But who she did speak to is that Seattle Storm contingency. And I'll just put it this way. She was very spirited, as she often is, while she was talking to them. Now, I couldn't hear what they were saying, but body language speaks. You know what I'm saying? Body language speaks. That's all we're going to talk about on Tempestagi Talk. I'm not explaining it no more right now. Come listen to Tempestagi Talk because I have some thoughts.
I have about 20 jokes about that, all of them completely inappropriate, and all of them might get me a talking to. So I'll save that for after.
Okay, let's save it. So that was a little weird. And then, okay, so the Vinyl and Lunar Owls, they brought out Ryan Howard from the Vinyl, and it was, the point guard was brought out. So Chelsea Gray. So Chelsea comes out first, and she's sitting there, and she's like, oh, can we start? She's talking to the Unrivaled staff, and they're like, no, we're waiting for Ryan. She's like, wait, I have to sit here with the person I just played against? She's like, yeah, we're gonna wait. She's like, oh no, I don't like that. She's like, no, I don't like that. She's like, well, and then they were like, I guess we can start. She's like, yeah, let's start now. She's like, I don't. Chelsea is hilarious. So the second game, we got Chelsea alone, and then Ryan came in after, and we got Ryan alone. The next day, so yesterday, Saturday, what they started to do is give us the head coach and one player from each team. So the first team gets, it was Phantom. So we got Sabrina. So I didn't want to get into a lot of what Sabrina said because this was a Sloot episode. But again, check out Slack. I also said in Slack, I'm going to give you a lot of content tomorrow in case the, things going on in Washington, D.C. are not what you want to partake in. Don't worry, we got you. But I'll have more from Sab, including how her recovery is going and what she wants to get out of Unrivaled. Yep, we'll have that. We'll talk about it. She's been wearing like a compression sleeve, but then also there's like a padding in here. She's talked about how the thumb feels, so you'll get all of that. So the second day we got the coach and a player from the same team. And I think that's how it's going to go moving forward. So that was interesting. The other interesting thing is, again, this is not a basketball arena. This is a sound stage that they turned into an arena, including the broadcast studio, that they literally call it the studio, or the court where the broadcast is, and then a practice court. So I found this out yesterday because this is not how it was on Thursday. When we as media or fans have to use the facilities, the restroom, for example, you have to leave the building and go outside to like these. If you've ever been to a festival, you know how they have porta potties, and then they have like the VIP porta potties. I think they're more like the VIP porta potties. So like a big trailer with a few stalls and stuff like that. Now, as a media member, I was like, y'all put us through a lot. I'm gonna let it rock. But now I got to go outside. And here's the thing. It was raining. Like it was torrential downpour on Friday. As it turned out, I handled my business and I didn't have to go until I left. But then, of course, once I heard that we were going to have to leave, so yesterday, of course, I had to use the bathroom. And I was like, you see, just don't tell me nothing about the bathrooms and then I won't have to use it. So that was a little wild. That's a little wild to me. I mean, I'm going to make it. I was like, am I bougie? Am I like a little, am I a little up? Like, well, I am AKA, but we're going to put that to the side. I was like, am I bougie? But also like, why can't we have a bathroom in the studio?
Look, Erica, I'll tell you this, like when I'm at a festival, I'm the exact same way. Like I've told myself this for about the past 11 years. I work too hard to be in general admission. Like never been. Like,
yes, I know that's right.
I have a real job with real responsibilities. I don't deserve this. I deserve a good restroom facility. I work too hard for that.
Also, people were paying like $1,500 for these dang tickets. Girl, I ain't got it.
Hey.
I ain't got that.
Hey.
And it was crazy. So like the ticket situation is also interesting. I feel like we're all family. I don't know. I cannot corroborate this. I heard murmurings that maybe some of the people from different teams or just like agents, people kind of high up in the women's basketball ecosystem might have wanted their seating to be a little different. I will say they were in the crowd, like amongst the fans. that's, I don't think an issue. Like when we are at All-Star, that's kind of how it works. That being said, if they are scouting, if they are there to have business conversations, you might not be wanting to sit next to, Joe the plumber while you're trying to have a conversation about free agency, which is not technically active, at least publicly. You might want to be somewhere private. So I can understand that. So then our seating got moved, but then that meant that the seating for fans got moved. So there's from A through G. G is where they have the landing where we were sitting. And so for fans, if they didn't update their ticket or open a new ticket, they were coming up to our platform and being like, where is my seat? So it was, there's a lot going on. So it's not all perfect, but the things that they have absolutely nailed from what I've heard, and I should get a chance to view the entire space. I'm going to do a walkthrough at 7 p.m. tonight. So you definitely want to be on Slack because I will give you first look, but I'll get to see the practice spaces. Well, I've seen the practice in, again, studio court. I'm really hoping to see what the nursery looks like. The parents that are there are super thrilled. They have daycare right there. It is free. They have the nannies. They worked with like a company, right, that can get certified child care providers to them. It's safe. They've met the parents have met the caregivers. The caregivers obviously have met that. So it's not like, here, take my kids, Like there was from what I understand. So that's been huge. I've passed by like the Sephora beauty area. Also, like, brilliant that Sephora has designed the uniforms for the officials.
I saw that. I'm like, hey, look at this glow up. Very impressive. Right?
I was like, okay, zebras, let me find out. I thought that was hilarious. I know we talked about it in Slack. Moni brought it up. So yeah, there's definitely some things that they are ironing out, like the bathroom situation. We were told that we would only get one player per team, which is a little different, obviously, than the WNBA. That seems like it's definitely coming from the players. But again, Chelsea was like, "Oh, I'm not fitting to sit next to someone I just played against."
We've been in an intense battle, and I have to
right.
No.
And that's something that's been interesting because the players have been like, it's like summer camp. And then some players are like, okay, but now we've played some games and some of us have lost some games. So like, don't talk to me. So it's really interesting because they all live in the same area. So a lot of people have been talking about, is it like the bubble? How is it different than the bubble? Some people like Sabrina had very visceral reactions to the bubble. She was like, I have PTSD. She's like, I was 2 games in and then I was hurt. So that's why I don't like that. But again, some of that I will break down in some content that we have coming up. I mentioned this. Actually, I don't know if I posted it because the TikTok is gone. But everybody on day one, I don't know if y'all can see this. Hold on. Everyone on day one received this commemorative ticket. So it's got the 6. Hold on. It's got the 6 zoom. There we go. It's got the 6 logos. And it has, I have an extra one here because I have some giveaways for some of our loyal listeners. Anyway, it's got the logos. It says 2025 Unrivaled inaugural season. It has the logos. Then at the bottom, it says section 1 or row 6, seat 36. All of them said the same thing. So I don't know what that was about. They were like, we're not printing out one for 800 seats, but that was cute. And then on the back here, I know you're not going to be able to see it, but this is, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. See, breaking news. TikTok is officially back now. I was on earlier. And they was like, no, ma'am. So it's back. I love to hear that. Thank you, Moni. And on the back here, it's the 36 players. The merch has been okay. I have this shirt, Unrivaled, so the crown. And then also, I'm a sucker for anything where you get to honor the OGs. So this one has the 36 players. Sorry, Natisha Heidemann, you ain't on here. You signed too late, girl. You signed too late. And then again, some of the things that we will be giving away. Phantom What's looking scary right now is their field goal percentage, but we'll get into that at some other point in time. I mean, when a person who just had thumb surgery is your leading scorer in your first game, what's going on? We're gonna need you to work that out. I know somebody who's an Owls fan. You picked good, you picked well. Lunar Owls. These are magnets. They also have stickers and stuff like that. The vinyl.
Very good.
The vinyl, spin the record. Rose, they got some work to do. Chelsea Gray chewing everybody up. Oh, the Laces. Okay, the Laces, interesting squad. Definitely. You got the Mist. The clapback, so real. I'm telling you, Jewel Lloyd had a hell of a game. And she's ready. Again, you do not want to miss the next Tempestagi talk. I have so many things to say about what Jewel Lloyd has been saying and also how she's been playing. And then, of course, we've got the Unrivaled logo.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty dope. No, I wanted TikTok to be banned. Oh, well. I just am glad I can go on there and let people know where they can find me in case. Look, Damien. Now Damien. Look at that. He did this for me. For me?
Was yours.
Well, I mean, hold on. Let me go to the transaction because they have extended, right? Am I tripping?
I don't believe they did, but I haven't checked the transaction in a few days.
Hold on. I thought, or it was reported. Someone reported that it's not on the transaction list. Hold on. Let me look. No, the last one is Gardner. I think that experiment is over, fam. Like who is she coming? Like who is she taking minutes from? Leo? No. Niara? No. JJ? LOL. Like why am I even mentioning JJ or Stewie? That's not happening. And even if she's not, I don't see Han as like a Leo comp in that she can gain significant minutes. I think we already have that, and I think it's Niara. So I don't really see that working. But I know she's a fan favorite, but I'm gonna go with Leo. I feel like Leo is rising on the charts, right? From the Liberty fandom.
Yes.
She might be in the top spot. Then you've got MJ. But Han has loyal fans. I love that. And to your point earlier, Han is a carryover from the Westchester days.
Yep.
So maybe there's that, but I don't know. I don't see it. The resale is crazy. The resale is insane. I'm like, y'all got money like that? Like, come swing my way. Like, oh man, come swing my way. But all right, last call for questions. I'm roaming through. I think there was a question for you earlier, Brian. So I think it was Ronnie that had a question for you. It was higher up. So here we go. Brian, do you think Slooty will be infected by the 2-year bug like Sammy and Big Mama Steph?
I will say, probably not, because I feel like Sloot is at a point where she's almost year to year, if that makes sense. Like when he played as much ball as she has, it's like you can still keep going, but circumstances change, salary caps change, the money's going to change, so you don't want to lock in too much into like you don't want to lock in, and then you look to your right, and then the money just jumps all over the place. So that part to be careful about. I think for the second year for Sammy and Big Mama, I felt bad for her because she got hurt last June when the Liberty were really starting to cook, and then it took her a long time to really get acclimated again because not to make it about the Mystics, but she was knocking them things down in DC, boy. I was like, look at Big Mama. You had to think about that.
It's funny you mentioned that because she's been knocking them down here in Unrivaled too.
I will put this out there now. Can we start the Steph Dawson All-Star Game campaign? I might, if she's at 45% 3-point percentage in June, I'm starting that campaign. Like we'll get Misha be like,
right. Let's see what Misha has to say about
Yeah,
that.
Misha out the VIP section. Bring her down with us. Be like, we're getting that Big Mama All-Star campaign cooking today.
Listen, that's hilarious. Oh man, we saw the comment from Damien. Think that the Liberty should move on from Courtney. I think after this pod, I think Brian and I both agree with that. The new death lineup: JJ, Stewie, Satou, Sab, and Leo. Interesting. That's from Amir. We got to work on getting Satou, but then you have the situation who starts and who comes off the bench.
Also, I
go ahead.
will say briefly on the Dallas Wings, since Kurt is in charge, I feel like you can't take Kurt for a sucker in a way you could other executives
That's
that
fair.
might have worked for Dallas, because I feel like Kurt's like, oh, you want this? All right. I like this roster y'all got and that draft pick y'all got. Give me some of that. I feel like Kurt is not one to get snookered in a negotiation. So it would be a great back and forth, I'd say.
Yeah, it would be interesting. We'll definitely see what happens. The Wizard. That's it. The Wizard. I keep hearing the Wicked soundtrack in my head when it comes to the Wizard. But yeah, having Johannes back.
That movie yet. Like,
you haven't seen it yet?
No, everyone I know keeps singing songs from the soundtrack, and I'm like, I have no frame of reference at all.
Oh man, well, I know the songs because of the play originally, so I always think it's fun when people like discover something that's been around for like 2 decades. They're like, oh my god, this is a bop. I'm like, you should have heard it when someone who could actually sing sang it. Yes, I'm throwing shade because Dancing Through Life, if you like Dancing Through Life from the movie soundtrack, I need you to hear Norbert Leo Butts sing it. He's the original Free Arrow, and he couldn't dance, but that man could sing. And Jonathan Bailey, not a great singer, but he's a better mover. So that's what I have to say about that. All right, folks, we're gonna wrap this one up because they actually moved up my tour of the Unrivaled facilities. So I gotta get ready to go back to the Miami-ish area. Well, I'm in the Miami-ish area, but I'm going to go back to the court. Let me know if this is your last chance. Let me know. I'm going to stay in the comments for another 2 minutes. Let me know in the chat, what do you want to see behind the scenes tour? But of course, if you're in our Slack community, you can just hit me up there. Looks like in another hour and a half, we're going to be on site for that. For those who are not a part of the Slack community, now's a great time to join. It sounds like TikTok is back, but who knows what they're going to do? Are they going to exactly? Are they going
to? Hey! If you thought data was it, oh boy! If you thought it was going to one place, imagine it going the other place. Let's grab another platform or a book. Let's do something cool, or just touch grass of some sort. We got to figure it out.
That's it. But again, if you want to engage with us without having your data hijacked, join us on our newsletter or the Slack community. This is something that you opt into. We will, it helps us in case we move platforms that we have contact information for you, but we will not sell that contact information, anything like that. Very safe space, especially on our Beehive newsletter. So make sure you join the newsletter if you haven't done so already. You can also join our Slack community. Both are free, at least for now, because the prices keep going up. So we might have to change some things. But for now, everything is free. And the more engagement we get from the community, the more of a sales pitch we can make to make sure that sponsors pay and not you, because they got the money. They got the money. Unrivaled is teaching us that. All right, y'all. That was the last call for questions. That means we're going to close out. Just a reminder, we've got some shows coming up. The next episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, we will record on February 3rd. We're going to go back to our evenings. That will be a Monday, I believe, Brian, right? So usually we cook around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And Kennedy Burke is who we're going to talk about, but we still have a lot of players to run through for our deep dive. And again, I mention we're backlogging, got to get up and the Tempestagi Talk, all of our Black Rosie Media podcasts. So soon you'll be able to find them on your favorite audio platform. Again, that will just be quarters 1 through 3, no fourth quarter, no listener questions, but it's still a very good time. And Tempestagi Talk, if you want to know what I think about Skylar and Jewel going head to head, if you want to know, listen, if you want to know all the tea, we've got you. The next Tempestagi Talk, we are going to do a deep dive into Jordan Hurston. It's also going to be our chance to talk about Athletes Unlimited. You mentioned Jalen Sherrod playing in Athletes Unlimited, so we'll do a shout out there. But that's going to be Thursday, January 30th. That is going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. for me at Black Rosie Media headquarters. All right, Brian. We got through it. We talked about Sloot. Probably means we're gonna move on. But Ronnie's already in the chat. You know what time it is. It's time to Ellie Wave. Wave. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, newsletter drops on Tuesday.